Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines today. We got George Soros and PolySign. We're going to get into it. Central banks re-examine crypto. Russia goes dark on its payment system. You're going to want that. By the way, top 50 bank talk XRP. And we also have Gary Gensler really revealing Ripple's game plan. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me at Dig Perspectives at the top of the screen. Everything that we're talking about here today, $1.957 trillion market cap for crypto. Getting back close to that $2 trillion mark. We'll keep an eye on it. We're up 0.28% this morning. Right now, Bitcoin is 42,400 plus, Ethereum 3,100 plus. We see at the number 6 spot at 75 cents for XRP. We're up 4.16 on the 7-day. Take a look at the range of price. Pretty tight this morning. We're 75 cents on the bottom, 78 on the top. We'll keep an eye on it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't checked it out, think about your retirement, what you want it to be like. You know, you can invest in crypto and be tax-free. That's right. I Trust Capital, the IRAs for crypto, gold and silver, no monthly fees and only 1% transaction fees. You can get a Roth, a SEP, or traditional IRAs available. This is a heck of an opportunity. Make sure you check out the link underneath the video, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at this. Let's get started right now. We have a lot to look at this morning, and I want to start right here. It's George Soros, which we talked about just a few days ago, finding out that one of his companies and firms invested into PolySign. Now, let me show you this because things start to add up here. And I think we're all going to a place that really is revealing. Not only are we going to hear the reveal of where we're going as a market infrastructure completely, I think, but we're also going to hear Gary Gensler really reveal the game plan of Ripple of how they achieve mass adoption. Don't believe it. It's still true. Right here, George Soros invested in PolySign. Check. Number 2, don't forget Gary Gensler met with George Soros too. Check. I don't know about you, but I don't feel like these two things are mutually exclusive. And while we're talking about those two things, let me tell you what else I don't feel like is mutually exclusive, because the Soros Fund Management certainly did invest in PolySign, which, if you are not aware, is created by Arthur Brito and David Schwartz from Ripple. And I happen to see, just as a visual here, I happen to see PolySign as really a new digital side of the DTCC for settlement and clearing. And what's important about that is because it brings us back to the idea and understanding that not only did George Soros invest in PolySign, but he's also had meetings with Gary Gensler from the SEC. And what did the SEC do? Well, the SEC back in February voted unanimously to use distributed ledger technology to shorten the settlement cycle for clearing and settlement. This is Gary Gensler talking about exactly that and the plumbing. Listen to what he says here.
Today, we do have those technologies not only to shorten the settlement cycle to 1 day, but also to shorten key elements of what's called the clearing process, that which goes on before. Also, I think rather important, it requires 3 important steps in that clearing process, the back office plumbing process of affirmation, i.e. to fully automate transaction processing. Again, lowering risks in the system. Now, separately, the Commission is also issuing a robust request for comment around areas to consider with respect to potentially achieving same-day net settlement in the future. Net, because it's still netting positions, but possibly moving the money, moving the securities in the evening or end of day. The technology actually exists today, not just for same-day affirmation, confirmation, and allocations, but even for same-day settlement. How do commissioners vote on the division's recommendations to amend the Securities Exchange Act on clearing and settling?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, the recommendation is approved unanimously.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was the SEC back in February in the Sunshine Meeting Act made public so we could all witness them vote unanimously to use distributed ledger technology for shortening the settlement cycle. Add that into George Soros meeting with the SEC, George Soros investing in PolySign, which, if we've got it right, is really for custody, clearing, and settlement. And that is pretty damn impressive information lining up right there. Now, let's talk about this, because this, I believe, is incentive inside of the global economy and what has been going on because of the fallout from the Russia-Ukraine conflict here. Russia says it will no longer disclose the names of organizations that use its alternative payment system to SWIFT. Just when you thought it couldn't get more intriguing, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this really quickly here. Some Russian banks have been banned, as we know, from the SWIFT banking system due to the Ukraine war. Russia is now urging the use of its alternative system, known as the SPFS system. And basically what it's saying here is that Russia will stop disclosing the names of the participants in its alternative to the SWIFT payment system. And we know so far that there are basically 52 foreign organizations from 12 countries that have access to the SPFS, Russian Central Bank Governor also said on Monday, which we covered here as well. Now, this, again, I believe, really becomes a catalyst and pressure globally for things like shortening settlement time, moving to a new financial system, incorporating distributed ledger technology, I believe, i.e. XRP Ledger for settlement, to deal with this obfuscation, as well as just to bring and revamp and introduce a new, safer, more secure financial system as well. Now, this all leads to what I want to point in this article here, which is about low interoperability, highlights crypto's big potential here. And I just want to show this one portion of this where really it says central banks are becoming more interested in re-examining their relationship with crypto, creating an opening for the crypto and blockchain sectors to help bring forth a unified Latin America payment system to make low cost. But the reality is that this is happening all over the world. And that's why we know 80% of central banks are in fact exploring central bank digital currencies. Now, why is that? Well, it's because we're going to have a new financial system is why that is. And it's not just in Latin America. It will be for the world. And that's exactly why I also believe we're seeing the SEC vote unanimously to incorporate distributed ledger technology. Now, this is a big shout out to my dear friends, Mark and Jen. This is the Crypto Couple 589 on TikTok. If you're not following them, you should be. They're doing a great job and they're crushing it there. He sent me this, and this is Top 50 Bank Standard Chartered, which is a Ripple partner, talking about testing XRP. Now, think about once we have regulatory clarity for banks, you better watch out. Listen to this. This was just a few days ago, posted on CNBC, and Standard Chartered tells you just how long ago they've been aware and piloted XRP. Take a listen.
We have countries like Switzerland and China all testing out the digital currencies. How are you gearing up for the disruption of money with central bank digital currencies? How will it change the way you and other banks operate in future?
Probably fundamentally. While we're not formally involved, no foreign banks are involved in the Chinese ECNY. I think we're as close to that as we can be to understand how that digital currency can be used for cross-border trade. Going back 5 years, we had digital currency underpinned trade finance and money settlement systems.
Had it underpinned.
And using as a medium of exchange, using things like Ripple's XRP, for example, as a medium to affect real-time cross-border payments. And we learn through each one of these pilots, and we realize that these things can be cheaper and faster with lower settlement risk, which is a good thing for the system. If the underlying currency that you're using as a medium of exchange is unstable.
It's unstable. Remember that he's bringing up that point about it being unstable. We're going to get to that in a minute. Bitcoin,
for example, very volatile, as we know, although it's also big and liquid. finding the trade-offs so that the system can actually be safer and cheaper and more effective.
Finding the trade-offs.
And at the same time, suitable for the user who doesn't want to take any market risk or operational risk along the way.
For the user and market participant that doesn't want to take any risk along the way. What I hear him saying in this statement right here, that as a top 50 bank, we love what it can do, but we don't want it to be unstable, right? We don't want to take the risk even as a medium of exchange. We want to know that we're guaranteed something here, right? Because the reality is, even though it is a less exposure to a 3-second settlement time using XRP versus Swift and days of settlement there, and you're open to less exposure to banks there, and I get that, still banks want more, right? They want more. What do they want? Well, I tell you, I think I know what they want because I think I know World Bank has said what they want just last November. They said that they want XRP and XLM to be stable coins for cross-border payments. That's what they said. They said, in fact, that this is basically the way they see them. Stable coins offer instantaneous processing and security of payments, as many cryptocurrencies do. They also offer stability with respect to parity against fiat currencies. So what they're saying here is two digital currencies that fall in that category are XRP and XLM. That's what they're saying here. And they're saying basically here that they offer stability with respect to their parity against fiat currencies. So this is very interesting because they are not stable coins currently to date, which means that they would either need to be price set or have a stable coin launched off of it to represent a stable price as a stable coin. What would it be stable to? Well, it could be to the many different dollars that are put up as collateral to back the CBDCs on these payment rails, known as the SDEX for Stellar and the XRP ledger for XRP. This is getting quite interesting here because what I hear in this clip here from the gentleman here, the CEO or president of Standard Chartered here, is saying they want it. They need more regulatory clarity, and I think the regulatory clarity, at least from the bank's perspective, is that they want it to be a stable coin because then it's guaranteed for them, right? That is really quite a perspective from the gentleman from Standard Chartered here, if I'm reading the tea leaves right. Now, what's interesting is that this is a clip from Gary Gensler here back at MIT, and what he's going to describe in here is exactly what Ripple's game plan was to achieve mass adoption. And there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's just the fact that they pulled it off. And remember in the complaint from the SEC from Jay Clayton and his tenure there, that they acknowledge that Ripple undertook to achieve their goal of widespread distribution of XRP by exchanging XRP for non-cash consideration. So essentially option contracts. You do a certain amount of things on your side of the fence. We'll continue to do the things we need to on our side. And at some point, you will agree to use the asset for settlement. We will give you some of this, and they can do that because XRP is pre-mined, and that gives them a great advantage because it's money. That's how I see it, right? And they have an option contract does not mean because you have an options contract that the asset you have the option contract for makes it a security, which is what I believe Gary Gensler thinks. You can have option contracts for gold, but it doesn't make gold a security, right? So I see the same thing here. Now, let's listen to what Gary Gensler says here, because I believe Gary Gensler actually describes the climate that Ripple has had to work within to achieve and win over partnerships to have over 400 customers on RippleNet. And I believe that they used incentivizing XRP and pre-allocation, just like in the early days when they had the accelerator program, when they used 300 million XRP or $300 million worth of XRP to incentivize different financial partners around the world. Take a listen to what he says here about how you have to break into the monopolist banking system.
central monopolist with another central monopolist. A lot of commercial banks aren't terribly excited about that. Maybe you're going to have to give some ownership. Maybe you'll have to give 50% of your ownership to the 20 banks that are now, part of this. I mean, there are other ways to build incentive systems. Maybe you put a native token in there, and you give.
Oh, put a native token in there.
You give, them the native token.
You give them the native token, just like here on line 82. Also undertook to achieve its goal of widespread adoption of XRP by exchanging XRP, the native token, for non-cash consideration. Gary Gensler, I believe, is acknowledging exactly what has happened here. And it's nothing wrong, and it's certainly not illegal. But what the regulator wants to do now is shut the door so no one else can do it. And that's what I believe this case is about, as much as it was made a weapon for Ethereum to have an advantage in this space. I also believe that's why this court case is a real application of the Reeves test, because I believe XRP is money. And I believe at the end of the day, they have done what no one else has done. They have achieved by creating a token and giving it to the banks, and knowing that they would have to go this long journey around the mountain, this scary path, which is through the regulatory fire, to get the clarity they need to really become the crypto asset that rises from the ashes and helps the world get back on track by bringing the velocity of money back to this global economy.
So there may be other incentive ways to beat the current monopolist, but I, having been around commercial banks for a long time, they really are looking for ways to replace their aggregators in their back office, whether it's clearing, settlement, exchanges, credit agencies.
So they're looking for ways to clear their back office, clearing, settlement, all of this, right? We play in the front of this video. George Soros invested in PolySign. PolySign created for custody, clearing, and settlement. Understanding the SEC has voted unanimously here. This is quite compelling that this gentleman is explaining this understanding and clarity here at MIT and is now a regulator, the head chair at the SEC.
They're deeply understanding, because they are pretty ambitious and very good at making money as well. They deeply understand that every idea that's pitched to them is somebody who currently is small but wants to get big and gain market power. So they're also always thinking about how to ensure that there's a check to slow down your startup from gaining market power 5, 10, and 15 years from now. They don't want you to be the next clearinghouse like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange or Intercontinental Exchange. They don't want you to be the next central node of market power.
Unless they own a stake in it. That stake, I believe, is XRP. That's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. The most fascinating thing I've ever watched in my life. And I'm glad I'm early, and I'm glad I'm invested. It's not financial advice. It's just my digital perspective. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch